Good morning to everybody. This is Raul Abril. I am an official in DIGIT, European Commission. I welcome you to this webinar on the EIRA Library of Interoperability Specifications, ELIS. And this is a webinar under the umbrella of the CAMSS, Common Assessment Method for Standard and Specifications initiative. Next slide, please. The agenda for today is basically first one introduction of the motivation why we are here. This is a common topic in all the webinars that we are offering, and then we will enter directly over the content on what is ELIS and how to use it. So I will do the introduction myself, and then I will hand over my team. Please, next slide. This webinar is going to take, as you see, 1 hour. Next slide, please. Okay, so the main motivation, I would say, you can read the slides later. This is, as I said, recorded, and then we will distribute the link for everybody. But in essence, is to increment the dissemination of the EIRA Library of Interoperability Specifications. There are, I would say, to summarize, the value proposition of ELIS, there are many collections of standards and specifications. I would say that the key value proposition of ELIS is to the focus on interoperability. Number one, so we are talking about standards and specifications that are very much identified to support interoperability of digital public services. This is our unit of analysis, digital public service in Europe. And that's why the E is EIRA. EIRA is our specification for the identified use cases. The most popular of them are the analysis of requirements of a digital public service, and the other is the design of a target solution for a digital public service ready to be implemented and coded. So those are the two main, most popular use cases for EIRA, and therefore the ELIS provides support to those two use cases, mainly for the second, for the design of a target digital public service, providing a collection of standards and specifications with a focus on interoperability. But not only that, and they have been, most of them, assessed with the CAMSS method, and they are in ELIS because they have exceeded the trade-off, the cutoff that we have to be considered interoperable by the CAMSS. Then this is in essence the value proposition. The motivation is to increase dissemination and understanding, because indeed there are many use cases, many profiles. One of the user profiles, of course, are solution architects, but other user profiles interested in ELIS are procurers, as you will see, no, when they are doing public procurement. You will see the content during this, in my opinion, excellent presentation. Next slide, please. Just to put in context the series of webinars that we have planned, we have delivered a first webinar, which is recorded and available, and the link is available in the web page. I would kindly ask you, team, to show where those links are in the Join app. And then we are in number 2, which is the next webinar that you decided to do in the previous email. We offer to you all, the previous audience, what could be your main interest, and then basically you decided that this should be the next one, today's ELIS. So here we are, and I just hand over to Romina, and I wish you a very successful webinar and enjoy, because ELIS is for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Raúl, for the introduction and the motivation. And indeed, let's keep exploring, and also we are gonna leave the word to you for co-creating the pathway of these CAMSS webinar series. The next point would dig deeper into the ELIS environment and solutions. And here I leave the floor to my colleague Enrique.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Next slide, please. Right. So there are three main concepts that are important to understand and to take into account. The first one is interoperability. This is our natural atmosphere, environment. Everything that we do is about interoperability. And therefore, the concept of interoperability needs to be understood in a good way. And it's the definition of interoperability is in the European Interoperability Framework, but the core idea is that this is about exchanging information and use it in a commonly and mutually agreed way. We also need to distinguish the concept of solution, because solution is something that is a broad concept encompassing many different things: frameworks, software, tools, services, everything that is essential to build knowledge, and that can be seen as a resource, as a fundamental resource. Everything is a solution. And last, but probably most importantly, this difference between what is a standard and what is a specification, because that is what CAMSS is about the standards and the specifications. In general, what we can say is that the specification is the documentation, the description of precise requirements. And these requirements are the ones that are needed to implement any solution. Now, the key thing is that the standard is a specification, not necessarily the opposite. Specifications are not necessarily standards. But so what is the thing that makes different a specification from a standard? So a specification becomes a standard when it has reached a certain maturity, adoption, and probably is recognized by authoritative sources or authorities in general as being appropriate, or even communities, as appropriate to be used and recommended to be used. Next slide, please. So having made these differences, or having clarified these key concepts, let's see now what does EIRA bring on the table. So the very main objective, the core objective of EIRA is support interoperability. All right. So in terms of how EIRA is supporting this interoperability, the European interoperability, the very first thing is that EIRA intends to become a reference architecture for this, to support the European interoperability, to guide public administrations in the analysis and in the design, as Raúl has explained, of interoperable digital public services. So the way EIRA works is that the user, and by user we can understand different types of users, like solution architects, portfolio managers, and there is a different catalog or a varied catalog of users. take EIRA as this input to build their requirements and to make their decisions. So giving these requirements, giving this input, and give it also and given also the principles and the recommendations and everything that is in the Interoperable Europe initiatives, mainly the European Interoperability Framework, but not only. And also giving the requirements of the user, then EIRA supports this user to produce their own high-level and detail-level solutions. Now, it is important to understand that what EIRA provides is not only this reference architecture, it also provides tools, like, for example, the CAR tool, which is explained in the next slide. And the relation to, yes, okay. So let's start by the reference architecture. And this is a slide that is really rich. It's plenty of detail. So maybe we shouldn't spend much time in it because we have a lot of things to explain to you. But this slide and the whole presentation will be available for you, so you can go into the details later on. But to sum up the content of this slide, the reference architecture is a kind of framework, blueprint that helps the user in guidance, in best practices and standards, and also in a common language. And this is very important, establishing a common language that everyone can understand, business and technicians and technical guys, to approach how to develop, how to deploy in a very easy and, or at least reducing complexity and cost, because it's reusing very important ideas that are already classic and are already in the legacy of what every solution architect or portfolio manager should know and understand. So EIRA can be seen as a kind of checklist. Raul likes very much using the expression the cherry picking list. It's a very interesting idea, because as you can see on the right side of the slide, EIRA is organized about the lost views that are presented in the European Interoperability Framework. So if you go to one of these views and you are an architect, a solution architect, for example, and you can see there what exists, and you can decide whether or not to use it or to compare it with what you have, and pick those things that you have or you don't have from the EIRA building blocks, and reuse it in your solution. Now, how this is done, and now I require you please to skip this slide. This is done using one very interesting tool in EIRA, which is the CAR tool, and it's meant to do that, yeah, to help the user to cherry pick these solutions and to build their own model. Now, what are, as explained in the slide, the CAR tool is a solution. It's a software provided by the interoperability architecture team. It's open, of course, and the main goal of it is to provide support to this design and to document the solutions. Now, it's a plugin that plugs in, sorry for the redundancy, in our preferred modeling tool, which is Archie. Why do we like this? Is because it's open source and because it uses the Archimate standard to express the content of the model in a machine-readable way. So it includes 18 features that help model EIRA and the solutions based on EIRA. And it's important to understand that it's not only open source and free of charges, but simplifies the use of the reference model, of the EIRA's reference model. Promotes reuse because everything that is there, it's reusable and shareable. And by reusing these building blocks that we have in EIRA, you promote data quality, and you can use it offline if the need is. Having said this, it's important to understand that one of the features, because we are talking now about the characteristics and features of CAR tool, one of the features of this CAR tool is that it is interoperable with ELIS. ELIS stands for EIRA Library of Interoperability Specifications, which is a development by CAMSS, another of the initiatives led by the interoperability architecture, by Raoul specifically. And it's a very interesting solution, ELIS, because it relates specifications. And remember that the specifications can be standards also. It relates specifications to the building blocks that you have in EIRA. And this is really interesting and important, and it's done in a very dynamic way because ELIS is a data set that is published on the Publications Office Cellar repository, so it's public and accessible. And this CAR tool, this plugin for Archie, retrieves or is able to retrieve all the specifications that are linked to the architecture building blocks of EIRA. But not only the specifications, it also can link or does link to the assessments done on those specifications, which is also important. So you can see when designing your solution, you can see which specifications can be used to implement a specific building block represented in EIRA, and also whether or not it has been assessed by CAMSS and where to find this assessment. All right, so how is this used? How is this CAR tool used? So basically to develop ICT solutions, to design, new solutions that are based on EIRA, yeah, and based on these reusable solutions and interoperability specifications and standards. But it also takes into account the legislative, the legislation, the European legislation. And it keeps an eye in a dynamic way on whether these proposals have been passed or have been deprecated or derogated or not. So it's able to understand how is the status of the legislation related to these solutions. And it can be used by policymakers, therefore, also to search solutions that are related to EIRA. Or it can be used by public procurers, especially when they have this need of supporting their procurement documents with recommended standards and recommended building blocks, and how these relations are established. So they can use EIRA to draft their procurement documents, but also, as we have been saying, by portfolio managers, helping portfolio managers in managing and making rational the portfolio solutions, their portfolio solutions. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Thank you very much, Henrik, for that. And we can continue on the side of exploring a little bit more of the ELIS environment and specifications and solutions. And in this case, we would like to present you three more elements, two specifications and one solution. As you can see here, we are entering the realm of vocabularies. So a premise I would like to make in this sense is that some specifications are, in the sense, as I was saying, in the realm of vocabularies, and they are developed by CAMSS and the European Commission to be unique, to be the only acknowledged source in terms of description for specifications, standards, and assessment as well. So as far as we know, they are also the only one we are aware of in the EU context, but also consider that those are the only ones that are recognized in this sense and available to you in multiple format, like machine readable format, as well as semantic. One of these is indeed the core standards and specifications vocabulary. I believe the term itself is self-explanatory, but as you can see here in the slide, this vocabulary is used for a sort of twofold purpose. On the one hand, we can use it to exchange information regarding standards and specifications, so that we can describe them amongst software solutions. On the other hand, this vocabulary can also be used to describe the same specifications and standards among themselves. So there is kind of twofold way of interpreting these. And also, well, Henrik anticipated that also these different aspects are very key to ELIS because there is a strong interconnection of that in this case, because this vocabulary is then based on ELIS and also is like entailed into that. Continuing on that sense, another vocabulary regards assessment, and in this case we have the common assessment vocabulary, which includes all the representations and definitions of what an assessment and an asset is, including how to perform the assessment of an asset and how to include how to check the different criteria to perform this type of assessment. It's regardless of the domain or the specific use case you would like to perform the assessment on. So this vocabulary is completely domain agnostic. The third element I was mentioning is now on the solution side. Now you know the difference. And in this case, we're talking about the CAMSS assessment. This solution is about the process of assessing a standard or a technical specification using the CAMSS assessment EIF scenario. EIF stands for European Interoperability Framework, and it includes several core principles as well as recommendations, which are the basis against which we assess the different specifications and standards. This way, the assessment, we produce a score. You can see in the slide an example and like the different spans and the different values, but then my colleague Esteban will dig deeper into that. And indeed, this score is the output of this assessment. And what's the relation with CAMSS assessment? Well, this approved assessment, the result of this process of assessing standards and specifications, is the solution. The solution called CAMSS assessment, which then the CAMSS team will then make publicly available on a specific library. You have a glimpse of that in the slide, and it's like publicly available and can be checked. So it's everything gathered together in the library. Now that we have a kind of overview of the different aspects, how do they are combined together in the ELIS environment. Here in this slide, you have a sort of glance of all of these aspects, put them together, and you see there, I believe, the strong interconnection between all of them. If you like check the vertical line of this slide and like this square, you see the different specifications we have mentioned so far, as well as the solutions, and the fact that they are based on ELIS, because ELIS includes all the different standard specifications that are have been assessed and therefore approved. And also there is also a need of conformance with the European interoperability framework, because it's like literally the framework of the guidance of the different models or principles or recommendations on which we then perform and check the different standards and specifications, which leads to the horizontal line of this slide. And like considering that a needed input is any potential candidate, as we said, standard and specifications that can also cover the EIRA architectural building blocks requirements. And if they are successful in that, they they feed ELIS, and as a result, they turn out into interoperable ICT standards and specifications. And what do? They link the EIRA architectural building blocks, or ABBs, to any standard and specification that can be used to create the solutions within EIRA, which are of course based on the EIRA ABBs. And this is like the whole view of a glimpse. And in the end, all this information is available within ELIS, and in this specific case, ELIS available in multiple formats. But we wanted to give you a view of the specifically of the ELIS Excel format. You see a screenshot of here, but you also will have the hyperlink through the PowerPoint. Because we believe it's like one of the most direct, straightforward methods through which you can have a look at all the different specifications that are associated to the EIRA ABBs, as well as the different elements, CAMSS assessments. So it's pretty complete, and we did invite you to have a look at it later on. That being said, we complete the view of the ELIS environment. So I leave the floor to my colleague Esteban to have a deeper look on ELIS and how to use it.
Thank you, Romina, and good morning, everyone. So now, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to use the ELIS and how to navigate through its different features. Next slide, please. Well, so first of all, quite important to note is that the ELIS mainly aims to support architects in the modeling of solutions based on the EIRA, as we have seen. This means that you can look throughout the catalog and find specifications that best fit for that specific purpose or architecture building blocks in EIRA terms. So in the end, it is a tool to search and find for those standards that can cover any given layer for the design of an interoperable digital public service. That is why you will always find a short description, as we could see in the previous slides, of the purpose of the specification, along with a rationale and a justification of why is the standard or specification fitted for that particular ABB. Another interesting point is that it includes all the assessments done by CAMSS and its scores by CAMSS done to date, hence giving a more nuanced view of the specifications coverage of interoperability matters. Also, we also always bear in mind that only those assessed specifications that score higher than 75% will appear in the ELIS. In the box from the right side, you can see the percentage gradient and criteria used to consider a specification eligible to be featured in the ELIS. Moreover, there is also the option of accessing the ELIS information through a Sparkle endpoint, where you can launch any query you want. And this feature will be later presented by Hector, who will perform a little demo. Also, you can see in the right top part of the slide the table showing the metrics of the total amount of existing specifications in the ELIS and the total amount of assessed specifications along with the average score. These metrics are further analyzed in the online dashboard, which we're going to talk next. Thank you. The online dashboard is mainly, well, it is maintained in the JoinUp platform, so you can always access it and see all the metrics and the evolution of these different metrics through time. The online dashboard, you will see the related metrics, metrics related to the evolution of the ABVs in scope, or the evolution of the ABVs covered by an assessed specification. Always describing the evolution of the ELIS population process from the first version to the ongoing version, and showing also the difference between the different interoperability layers. If we further delve into the dashboard, please the next slide. There can also be checked all the metrics for each of the versions of the ELIS. These statistics are structured in a table containing all the numbers and percentages from each view from EIRA. As you can see, those metrics in fact are showing how the ELIS specifications library is covering each ABV from the corresponding EIRA views. More in detail, you can see there is number of and percentage of ABVs in scope, which is related to those ABVs and in the latest version of the EIRA that can be associated with a specification according to their nature and purpose. Also, the number and percentage of ABVs covered, which means that they have been associated with one or more specifications in ELIS. Also the specs per view, of course, and the assessed number of assessed specifications, always using the EIF scenario, the CAMSS EIF scenario. Well, as I said, for those who want to give it a look, you can always access to these metrics in the JoinUp page, and of course we will later on give the links to that. And now we will give the word to Hector Rico.
Yeah, so thank you, Esteban. I think that we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so now we are going to present a few use cases that are covering some of the aspects that my colleagues have presented. The first one is the use case of ELIS in the car tool for the software architect or architect solution. We can go to the next slide. Yeah. So for this use case, we have that a software architect or a solution architect needs to identify some specifications for the design and implementation of a new digital public services, for example. And for that purpose, we can it can be used the car tool. I will not extend myself on the explanation of the car tool because Enrique has done a very broad presentation. Basically, the car tool, as already said, is maintained by the team in charge of EIRA. It is aimed to support the design of new digital solutions. It can be accessed through JoinUp. It's available. I think that the link is already in the chat, and it contains different solutions and the description of different solutions apart from ELIS and ELAB, which are from CAMSS, that are described in the EIRA nomenclature, let's say. So now I'll share my screen to show you an example of how the ELIS can be used and navigated in the Archi tool. I'll share my screen. I'll take over 1 second. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so we start from having installed the plugin in the tool. So the first step is that we have here a sidebar with the menu that we can navigate, and we have EIRA related aspects, and we have also the ELIS and the ELAB. Now we are going to focus on ELIS. We can access by double clicking in it, and it is open like this. In here, what we can found, as my colleague has explained, is a set of specifications that has been associated to the different EIRA ABBs, and some of them have assessments. So here we have the specification name. The type indicates basically if it's a specification, application profile, or a standard. We have, as I just said, the building blocks. We have also the domain that is covering the specification. We have access to the online documentation of the different specifications that is clickable, and it redirects you to the landing page. And then for those that specifications or standards that have assessment, we have the name of the assessment, let's say, and then the landing page that redirects you to the JoinUp solution that contains the information regarding the assessment. So this is the first way to navigate and use the ELIS, but there is also one that provides additional value. That is, imagine that we are modeling a new solution, and we have, for example, this diagram for semantic view. It's a general one that it doesn't expect to make sense, but imagine that we have this model. We can, for example, check on and we want to check which control vocabulary we can add to the to our solution. So we would go to the semantic view. We would go to the control vocabulary and would do right click. This right click, we have a view available interoperability specifications. If we click, it is open like the results panel that is the same as we had when we were navigating the ELIS, but specific to this ABB. So for example, imagine we want to use Eurovoc and add it to the model. We click right and add interoperability specification to the model. Then it appears the dialog with the details of the specification, and we have the specification added here. So then we can establish the relation that it is necessary. And that can be done for the different views in EIRA. The process would be the same. Just look for the view and the different ABBs that we want to specialize as SBBs and later on specifications, and do right click and then insert the specification to the model. In general terms, that's how the ELIS supports the implementation, the design and implementation of new digital solutions. This is interesting because helps in a hands-on mode, meaning that it helps during the process and recommends specifications that can be supporting and implementing some specific features on the digital public service. I think that for that specific use case on the cartoon, I think we are done. I think you can take over again, Romina, and present the
Yes.
slides, and we will go to the second use case.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, 1 second. Okay. So this second use case, as it has been already introduced by Raúl Abril, the project officer, and Enrique in their explanations, we have the use case of a public procurer, and we are going to show how the ELIS can help here and through which methods. Let's say we can go to next slide. First of all, as Enrique has explained, the ELIS dataset is published in Cellar. We produce a machine-readable format that allows us to publish the ELIS in Cellar. The Cellar is the central repository for content and metadata of the Publications Office of the European Union. It is used like a single entry point for the management of content and metadata in a harmonized and standardized way. It helps to have all the information published by the Publications Office under the same standards and schemas, and helps to read the retrieval of information. And this covers three main objectives, which is guarantee to citizens that have better access to EU publications. Then we have to encourage and facilitate the reuse of content and metadata, not only by citizens, but also for private and public professionals. And also the third one, which is preserve and access to the content and metadata over time. So I think that having said that, I can take over to a demo and continue explaining something from my share screen. I'll share my screen. 1 sec. Yeah. As I said, and also Enrique has explained very in detail and clear, we produce the machine readable format data sets that allows us to publish in Cellar, but not just in Cellar. It allows us and you, for example, to get that data and use it from different tools. Now here I'm showing, for example, the Virtuoso endpoint for querying the data set. But now we are going to, for example, the GraphDB, which is a tool. It's in this case it's our internal tool, and what it puts in or remarks is that since this is a standardized method for querying it and for publishing the information, you can reuse this information from different solutions and tools. So the availability is always here, where it is the endpoint of the Publications Office, the Cellar, but you can also import the different data sets that we produce into your preferred solutions and query it. So from the perspective of the use case that we are covering, which could be a public procurer that needs to identify some specifications for referencing them into public procurement processes, we have this the dataset imported here, and we have here pre-built some queries, some Spark queries that show the specification. In this case, we have the specification identifier and the title, and here is filtered, for example, by a standard. This is one case, but we could also do the filter by specification, which shows a different list with different specifications according to the classification. We have an additional one, which could be, for example, we have specifications and also we classify them by the domain that we have provided them in ELIS.
Hector, may I interrupt you just a second?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
It's very interesting to understand or to see how this query is using the core specification standard vocabulary. As you can see, the difference between specification and standard is defined in the core standard and specification vocabulary, which was developed in the context of CAMSS precisely for this use. So as you can see, the query, the prefix CSSV is referring to the core standard and specification vocabulary, and it's telling to the query, this is a standard or this is a specification according to the definition given in the core vocabulary. Thank you, Hector.
Yeah, you are welcome. Thank you for the clarification and to put more value on that, Enrique. So as I was saying, we have here some specific queries that we have pre-built and that we will provide with the email that we will send with the recording and so on for you to reuse. But again, it can be used or extended or filtered according to the different elements that we have in ELIS, such as the different building blocks. If we want to retrieve something specific related to specific building blocks, we can retrieve by specification that have assessment. We will provide you with different pre-built queries that will allow you to check that in the different first of all in the Cellar and Sparkwell endpoint, but you can use it in the different tools that you use for these for querying graphs and data sets. So I think this is in general the demo on how to use the ELIS on both the card tool and also this Sparkwell endpoint. And I think that we can take over to the presentation, and Romina will lead us to the next sections.
Thank you very much, Hector. Indeed. Well, we reached actually the end of the explanation and of ELIS, so it's a moment for question and answers. Although I saw that there has been some action throughout the whole session. Also, first of all, thank you very much for sharing your questions, because this gave us the opportunity to clarify further. And I saw that colleagues have already covered and clarified all that. But in any case, if you have further questions and doubts, feel free to either write them on the chat or unmute yourself.
Good morning, everybody. I wrote several questions in the chat and they were responded. So thank you very much for the explanations. It will give me the deeper insight in this solution, in this asset solution. I think it's very helpful. So just one remark: we in Poland are running quite a big enterprise architecture repository for the central government. So it contains approximately 1,000 of public registries, more than 1,000 of the public information systems, and all other objects from the IF levels. So the organizations, the strategies, the legal acts, and of course connections between them. So we've got tens of thousands of relationships between these objects. So in the context of what I'm saying, I think it's very important tool you are presenting. So finding the proper specifications or standards which support interoperability and when they are presented in the architectural view, so they are connected to the architecture building blocks of EIRA, could be very useful. But right now I have to think it over how to. I think that I will have to use it manually. So having a different repository in the Arch tool, having EIRA collected with ELIS and looking by hand, by myself, looking for some specifications which could be reused, because right now I don't see the possibility of connection of your valuable solution to our solution, which is we base on some proprietary enterprise architecture solution. So it is not possible to merge, for example, the presentation of the connection of the specifications from the European level to our repository. However, I find it very interesting, and as you presented in the previous webinar, in the context of the next Interoperable Europe Act, which will require having cross-border interoperability assessments, I think it is very worthy material, and I will dive deeper into it. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Michal, also for sharing your remark.
Yeah, in here, just to jump in and contribute what you were saying, in the context of the current contract and in the future, we are thinking on a possible solution that apart from that, what we already have available using Archi and the cartography tool, to expose the ELIS in some as a service in a web service, let's say, that would be user friendly and would allow you to search and according to the different categories and so on, using more natural language. So this, on one hand, would support you on the fact that you don't need to use this Archi or other tools to find that information. And we are also exploring the possibility to provide the indications, let's say, on how to build a library on interoperability specifications on a specific domain or for your personal and organization interests and needs. And it could be something at the moment theoretical, let's say, but we are seeing if this exposure that we are looking for with the ELIS in itself on that platform could be extended, and that platform could be used also for external users to build and use it. That's work ongoing, but I think that it kind of support what you were saying.
Thank you very much.
Any other question or remark or comment?
I could make another comment only on the vocabulary level. When I was listening at the beginning of your presentation, there was the slide showing the definitions of solution and then standards and specifications. So one thing that, from my point of view, could be misleading is that there is the definition of solution, quite wide definition. But in the next set of definitions, we see that the specification is a documentation of a precise requirement or set of requirements that are needed for the implementation of a solution. So far, everything for me is clear and understandable. But then we see the definition of a standard, which is said further that is recognized as the most appropriate current solution. So of course we could say that standard is always also a solution, but when we compare the definition of a solution, so the definition of a specification, so specification that specification equals the requirements that are needed for the implementation of the solution, and standard is matured specification. So we could derive that solution is a set of requirements for solution. So formally it's proper, but it could be misleading on the vocabulary level.
I do agree totally. I think that the definition of the standard should replace the word solution with the word specification, and then you break this vicious loop between one and the other. Thank you very much for your comment. I think we need to change that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much too. I think that the information you provided during this webinar is quite complex, and therefore there could be no questions right now. After the first webinar, I wrote some extensive notes, but I also had to reread the materials from the previous webinar to dive deeper into the subject. So I think that the questions which do not arrive right now are not because the material or the solutions are not interesting, but because of the complexity of the material, which has to be rethought over.
Indeed, Michal, you have a point. It's a lot of information to process in an hour. So we really need to give the audience time also to process what we have presented so far. And in any case, we're going to also share all this presentation as well as the recording so that you can check it at your own pace, and also like share any doubts that you may have with us. So we will be happy to answer also at a later stage. So I would take the opportunity, these few minutes left of this presentation, to moving on to the last part, because we would like to keep hearing from you. As we announced at the beginning of the presentation, we would really like to know what you would like to see next. This webinar series continues, and we plan to develop the third session. And here, it's up to you to decide which topic you would like to address. So I invite you to go on Slido, and either via the QR code or entering the website slido.com and entering the code you see there. I'm going to also share it on the chat. I see people keep voting. I see that now it's more stabilized, but of course, if there is any other last minute vote, you're still in time. You have some seconds more. Though I may foresee a winner already here, which really seems to be the ELAP, the European Library of Architecture Principles. So thank you very much for voting. I believe that we can close the poll, and so we have a winner, and like we're gonna start working on the ELAP presentation in the session for you next already next year also. So that being said, we can close the session. I thank you very much, you all, again, for attending it and participating. Also on behalf of everybody, my colleagues, and also Raul. We're gonna share all the information with you via email, so no worries. You're gonna see everything: recordings, PowerPoint presentations, as well as the queries for that we announced at the demo. So once again, thank you very much. Also, allow me to share you happy holidays, since we are in December and closing the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All the
Bye.
best for you. Thank you for the interesting presentation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.